I was wondering, would it be okay if I kissed you?
Here is the truth that nobody told you. Asking a woman if you can kiss her is like asking a fish if it wants to be caught.
You see, women are attracted to confidence, which is scar tissue you get from experience. So when you ask, you're basically saying, I don't have enough experience to know. That means no scars, hence no attraction.
Society never handed you the dating manual. They handed you the etiquette pamphlet.
Be polite. Bring flowers. Open the door. Don't stare.
Meanwhile, the real playbook, the one that actually flips the switch from nice guy to fuck yes, is classified, burned, memory hold. And here's the cosmic joke. We live in the golden age of information. You can Google how to build a pipe bomb, hack a neighbor's Wi-Fi, or ferment prison wine in a toilet. But type, how to actually attract women, and suddenly the results page is a graveyard of TED Talks about emotional vulnerability and healthy communication. We're drowning in cat videos and conspiracy rabbit holes, yet the one skill that actually moves the needle in the bedroom is treated like state secrets. Because the truth is ugly. We're trying to navigate a 50,000-year-old jungle with 21st century woke etiquette. Biology didn't get the diversity memo. It still runs on raw polarity, pre-selection, and a little calibrated danger. It doesn't care about your feelings journal or your I statements. It cares if you feel like the man who could survive the savannah or the one who'd get eaten first. This episode is about the silent script everyone's pretending doesn't exist, the rules that still govern attraction, whether HR approves or not.
Buckle up, mortals. We're reading the forbidden script today. I'm Amrapali, and this is the Ink Truth Podcast. Welcome on board.
We're going to talk about the Great Suppression, how society torched the actual playbook and replaced it with a fairy tale that's got more plot holes than a bad rom-com. We're going to decode the biological dark mode that's still running in every woman's brain, no matter what her Instagram bio says. We're going to break down how dating apps didn't democratize love, they just gave hypergamy a Red Bull IV drip and turned attraction into a winner-take-all blood sport. And we're going to expose the calibration trap that's left an entire generation of men too scared to lead and too polite to be desired.
This isn't going to be comfortable, but comfort is why you're still single. Let's begin.
Wait, so you just ignore them?
Whoa! It's counterintuitive, but look at this chapter.
Whoa! This changes everything!
Segment 1. The Great Suppression. The burning of the manual.
Picture this. It's the early 2000s. A bunch of awkward dudes suddenly discover that attraction isn't random fairy dust magic. It's a skill. They start treating dating like learning guitar or fixing a car. They observe, test, refine. They share notes in forums. They develop frameworks. Love systems, openers, negs, peacocking, kino escalation.
Was it cringy? Absolutely. Were some guys creeps? No question. But here's what actually happened.
For the first time in modern history, men started reverse engineering female attraction instead of just accepting the official narrative. And the official narrative was simple. Be nice. Be yourself. Be emotionally available. Women are attracted to kindness and respect. But then these guys went into the field and discovered something uncomfortable. That narrative was, at best, incomplete. At worst, it was actively counterproductive.
They found that confidence mattered more than compliments. That a little playful teasing created more attraction than earnest agreeableness.
That women responded to men who led, who had social proof, who didn't seek permission for every escalation. They weren't discovering anything new. This knowledge had existed for millennia in every culture's unspoken understanding of courtship. But it had been buried under decades of progressive egalitarianism that insisted men and women were identical in their desires and attraction triggers. The pickup artist community, for all its flaws, accidentally held up a mirror to female mate choice mechanics that polite society prefers to keep in the dark.
And that's when society hit the panic button. The backlash wasn't gentle. It was coordinated, thorough, and devastating. Forums got nuked. Books disappeared from Amazon. YouTube channels vanished overnight. Entire terms became slurs. Pickup artist became synonymous with sexual predator. Seduction became manipulation. Attraction techniques became
Toxic masculinity. The stated reason was always protecting women from predators. But that's not why the backlash was so total, so scorched earth. The real reason? The PUA community exposed the machinery. They made visible the patterns that work versus the narrative we're told should work. And once the gears are visible, the machine becomes harder to run on autopilot. When you can see that women consistently respond to dominant body language, that pre-selection triggers attraction, that a little emotional unavailability creates more interest than eager availability, suddenly the whole just be nice and vulnerable fairy tale starts looking suspiciously thin. So the manual had to burn. Not just the toxic parts, all of it. The baby, the bathwater, the tub, and the entire bathroom.
What replaced it? The progressive dating narrative.
Be agreeable. Be emotionally available first. Never lead, never tease, never risk rejection.
Communicate everything explicitly. Ask for verbal consent at every stage. Treat dating like a collaborative therapy session between equals.
A script optimized for HR departments and therapy waiting rooms. Not for the 50,000-year-old biological marketplace where women still, quietly, subconsciously, screen for dominance, confidence, and pre-selection.
And the results?
Record male loneliness. Record female dissatisfaction. A dating economy where the top 10% of men hoover up 80% of the attention, while everyone else is told to work on themselves forever. Men following the official script end up in the friend zone, confused about what they did wrong.
They were respectful. They communicated. They were emotionally available. And she chose the guy who did none of those things.
It just totally dissipates the polarity. He's genuinely interested, but so indecisive.
And the neediness. I feel like I'm just friend-zoning everyone lately.
Women are frustrated too, because the men who approach them with genuine interest come across as hesitant, needy, approval-seeking.
The polarity is gone. The spark is missing. It feels like friendship, not desire. And everyone blames everyone else. Women blame men for being either too aggressive or too passive. Men blame women for saying one thing and doing another.
Nobody blames the map they were given, because questioning the map means questioning the entire ideological framework that produced it.
They didn't replace the manual. They just outlawed reading one. And now we're shocked the machine is smoking.
But here's the thing. The machine was never broken. You just can't operate machinery you refuse to understand. So let's understand it. Let's talk about what's actually happening under the hood. Segment 2, the biological dark mode. Dual mating strategy.
Women have two operating systems running at the same time. The frontal lobe, the polite, woke, socially conditioned one, is give me a sensitive, egalitarian king who does therapy, splits chores 50-50, and cries during Pixar movies. Meanwhile, the limbic system, the ancient feral firmware that's been running for 50,000 years, is, yeah, but does he look like he could fight a bear and win?
That's the dual mating strategy in plain English.
Overtly, they advertise for provider beta, the stable guy, the good communicator, the emotionally available partner who'll be a great dad and split the mortgage. Subconsciously, they're wired to light up for dominance alpha. The guy with options. The guy who doesn't need her validation. The guy who moves through the world like he owns it.
This isn't opinion. This is evolutionary psychology 101, replicated across hundreds of studies observed in every culture on Earth.
Women evolved to optimize for two different things at different points in their cycle and their life stage. Short-term mating, when they're ovulating, when they're young, when resources aren't immediately critical, favors high testosterone, dominant, genetically superior males. Men who signal good genes, not necessarily good behavior. Long-term mating, when they're seeking stability, when they're ready for children, when resources matter, favors reliable providers. Men who signal commitment, investment, and cooperative parenting. The problem with modern dating is that women are now trying to get both from the same guy. They want the alpha's genetics and the beta's commitment.
And if they can't find that unicorn, which most can't, because alphas rarely commit to long-term monogamy, they end up frustrated with the beta they settled for or cycling through alphas who won't stay.
This creates the core paradox of modern dating. She says she wants a gentle poet who reads bell hooks and respects boundaries. Then Mr. Unavailable walks in, smirks once, and suddenly her dopamine is doing backflips.
She swipes left on the guy who wrote a thoughtful message about shared interests.
She swipes right on the bio that says not looking for anything serious.
She friend zones the guy who listens to her problems and validates her feelings. She sleeps with the guy who barely texts back and forgot her birthday.
And then she complains that all men are trash, while continuing to select from the same 10% of men who display dark triad traits.
Let's talk about that for a second. The dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. These are not good traits. They're associated with manipulation, emotional unavailability, lack of empathy, and relationship instability. But they're also associated with confidence, dominance, risk-taking, and social boldness.
And those traits trigger primal attraction circuits that 50,000 years of evolution refuse to patch out.
Enter the Beauty and the Beast archetype. This story has survived in every culture for a reason. The dangerous, untamed male who's softened only for the special woman who can fix him.
The fantasy isn't politically correct, but it's biologically hardwired.
Modern ideology keeps trying to install a software update. Reject toxicity, date the safe one, nice guys are sexy. Biology just reloads dark mode and keeps swiping right on the guy who doesn't text back for 3 days.
Because here's the secret. Attraction isn't a moral evaluation. It's a biological response.
You don't decide what turns you on any more than you decide what foods taste good. You just respond, and then your rational brain scrambles to justify the response. So when women say, "I want a nice guy," they genuinely believe it. That's the frontal lobe talking. That's the socialized, conscious preference. But when they actually choose, the limbic system takes over. And the limbic system wants the guy who makes her feel something. Uncertainty, challenge, a little bit of danger wrapped in just enough safety.
The manual isn't missing. It's just written in a language-polite society, banned from the curriculum.
And that's why the "good guys finish last" meme refuses to die. Because finishing first was never about being good. It was about being dangerous enough to feel safe around.
I really don't mind carrying these. It's a beautiful day for a walk.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
The nice guy thinks attraction is earned through virtue. The guy who actually gets the girl knows attraction is triggered through polarity, tension, and emotional range.
One is playing the game he was taught. The other is playing the game that actually exists.
And the gap between those two games? That's where all the frustration lives.
But it gets worse, because we're not just dealing with biology anymore. We've added technology to the mix. And technology didn't level the playing field. It turned hypergamy into a global deathmatch.
Segment 3. Dating apps and hypergamy on steroids.
Dating apps didn't invent hypergamy. They just gave it a Red Bull IV drip and a megaphone. Let's talk about what hypergamy actually is. It's the biological tendency for women to mate up, to seek partners of equal or higher status, resources, attractiveness, or social value than themselves. This isn't a moral failing. It's an evolutionary strategy. For most of human history, a woman's survival and her children's survival depended heavily on the quality of her mate. Choosing poorly meant death. So women evolved to be selective, more selective than men. Because the cost of a bad mating decision was catastrophically higher for women than for men. Men can, theoretically, impregnate hundreds of women with minimal investment. Women can only be pregnant once every 9 months, and that pregnancy is resource-intensive, dangerous, and requires support. So men evolved to be less selective, more opportunistic. Women evolved to be more selective, more strategic. This created a natural imbalance that was kept in check by limited options. Before smartphones, your dating pool was constrained by geography and social circles. You knew maybe 20 to 30 potential partners. The pool was small, the stakes were real, and most people settled for good enough, because that was the only game in town. Hypergamy existed, but it had natural breaks. Then came Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, the entire dating app ecosystem. Suddenly, her dating market isn't 20 guys from her town. It's every man within 50 miles who owns a phone and can string together a coherent sentence. Hypergamy goes from a quiet background instinct to a full contact sport with infinite opponents. And the data is brutal. OkCupid released a study showing that women rated 80% of men as below average in attractiveness. Let that sink in. 80% of men are below average. That's not how averages work, but it is how female selectivity works when given unlimited options. Tinder's internal data, leaked over the years, shows that the top 20% of men get roughly 80% of the matches. The bottom 80%? Crickets. Ghost town. Invisible men scrolling into the void. Hinge analyzed their data and found similar patterns. A small percentage of highly attractive, high-status men receive the vast majority of attention, while the average guy sends dozens of messages and gets maybe one response. This is the 80/20th rule on crack. Or more accurately, it's the Pareto principle applied to sexual economics, turbocharged by algorithmic sorting. Women aren't being shallow in a vacuum. They're responding rationally to abundance. When you have 500 matches, you don't carefully evaluate each one. You filter aggressively. You swipe right only on the top tier, because why wouldn't you? So they swipe right on the same 20% of men. Those men get flooded with attention. They become overwhelmed, jaded, and transactional. Why invest in one match when 5 more are waiting? Meanwhile, the bottom 80% of men aren't entitled.
They're just statistically irrelevant in a winner-take-all algorithm that ranks humans like fantasy football players. Everyone loses.
Men feel invisible and rage quit. Or they become bitter and radicalized. Or they give up entirely and retreat into porn and video games. Women feel exhausted by the paradox of abundance. Endless choices, zero connection. The top-tier guys they match with are emotionally unavailable, non-committal, or juggling multiple options. The average guys who message them come across as desperate or low value because the app's sorting algorithm has already categorized them as such. Dating becomes a slot machine where only the house, the apps, wins. Tinder isn't incentivized to help you find love. They're incentivized to keep you swiping, keep you subscribing, keep you in the game just long enough to pay for boosts and super likes. The apps didn't democratize love. They turned hypergamy into a global deathmatch and sold tickets to watch us all bleed out. And the saddest part? Most people still think the problem is individual. Men need to take better photos. Women need to lower their standards. Everyone just needs to be more authentic. No, the game board itself is rigged. You can't fix a structural problem with individual effort.
You can't out-optimize an algorithm designed to monetize your loneliness. We're not playing dating anymore. We're playing Tinder Royale, Battle Royale for romantic attention, and the loot box is always empty. But even if you somehow navigate the app wasteland and get a match, even if you make it to the date, there's another trap waiting. One that's arguably worse because it was built with good intentions. The calibration trap. Segment 4. The calibration trap. Consent versus spontaneity.
Modern dating gave men a new commandment. Thou shalt ask for verbal consent before every single escalation.
Want to kiss her? Ask. Want to touch her waist? Ask. Want to lean in for the cheek kiss? Better ask twice and get it notarized. Sounds noble. Feels like filling out HR paperwork mid-makeout. And here's the brutal punchline. While everyone is busy applauding how safe and respectful it is, the electric stomach-flipping, "Oh God, he just did that" spark quietly dies in the background.
Oh God, he just did that.
Let me be crystal clear about something before we go further. I'm not advocating for ignoring consent. Consent is non-negotiable.
The guys who win in dating aren't predators. They're not ignoring boundaries. They're just freakishly good at reading microsignals. Dilated pupils, the way her breath changes.
The half second she lingers when your hand brushes hers. The angle of her body. The tone of her voice.
The smile that reaches her eyes versus the polite one that doesn't. They don't ask, "Can I kiss you?" They lean in 90%, pause, and let her close the final 10%. They test the water with small movements and instantly feel whether the tide is coming in or going out. That skill used to be passed down in locker rooms, bars, from older brothers, in those shady PUA forums. Now, all that tacit knowledge got labeled toxic and thrown into the memory hole. What's left for the good guys who actually listen to the official narrative? A script that says, verbalize everything. Explicit consent at every stage, never assume anything. Result: they come across as clunky, hesitant, robotic. Not because they're bad men, because they're following the only rulebook society still allows. She says, "I want a guy who takes charge." He says, "Is it okay if I take charge now?" Vibe instantly murdered. She feels zero polarity, zero danger, zero butterflies. He gets friend-zoned for being sweet but boring. Here's the paradox society won't admit. Women want to be desired, not debated with. They want a man who can read the situation, who can feel the energy, who can escalate smoothly when the moment is right. They want to feel pursued, not interviewed. Asking, "Can I kiss you?" kills the fantasy. It breaks the fourth wall. It reminds her that this is a negotiation, not a seduction. It puts her in her rational brain instead of her emotional body. And women don't fuck with their rational brains. They fuck with their emotions. The trap is elegant. Society removed the only training manual that taught calibration. Then it punished men for not having calibration, while simultaneously demanding they never risk calibrating without a signed affidavit. We've created a generation of men who are simultaneously too scared to lead and too polite to be desired. They've been told that masculinity is toxic, that confidence is arrogance, that leading is controlling, that desire is creepy. So they shrink. They apologize for existing. They seek permission for everything. And they wonder why women lose interest. It's not even functional, but it is where we are.
So what do we do about it?
The silent script exists. It always has. It governs attraction whether we talk about it or not. You can pretend it doesn't exist and keep wondering why your earnest, respectful, emotionally available approach keeps landing you in the friend zone. Or you can read the forbidden chapter, integrate what's useful, discard what's toxic, and start navigating with your eyes open.
The forbidden chapter was never really forbidden. It's written in every interaction. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the territory they won't map. Until next time.